Alrighty, let's go ahead and get started. Welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining us here today. This webinar today is about expanding your student support, about best practices for engaging your participants. We have a really exciting lineup today to talk through, and I can't wait to get started. So thank you for joining us. Just to do some quick introductions, my name is Jen. I'm a product manager here at Mentor Collective. I focus on training and learning and some of these engagement resources we'll talk about today. I'm also joined today by Javier Navas, who's a program success manager at Mentor Collective, and one of his wonderful partners, Casey Strahl, who is assistant director of student engagement at UW-Madison. And Javi and Casey will talk a little bit more about their collaboration in an upcoming section. Before we get started, I wanted to just reiterate some Zoom best practices, make sure we're all in the same boat here. So upon entry, your audio is on mute and you're able to adjust your video layout to speaker view. If you look on that Zoom bar, that toolbar, you should be able to see me or whoever is speaking, as well as the presentation. If you're writing into the chat box, please chat your name and your school so that we can help you in any way possible. We have several of our program success managers here, and our Mentor Collective support team is here as well, including our Director of Product Marketing, Mackenzie Lenoir. And we're here to support your questions in the chat. So please make sure you say, your name, your school, so we can best help you. And those are questions if they're related to Zoom or the topic that we're discussing today. Alrighty, so today we're going to show you how to drive participant engagement in your program, how to explore the resources available specifically for mentors and mentees so that we're really covering all the participants in the program, as well as using key engagement metrics to better understand the needs of your specific student population. And then finally, learning from Casey and Javi, gaining insights on the engagement practices that yielded positive results at UW-Madison. Engagement can mean many things in a program, and getting students engaged throughout the duration of their mentorship program is really our goal to talk through with you today, since we know that this kind of engagement impacts the program outcomes that you may have at your institution. All right, so speaking of program outcomes, there are multiple outcomes that may tie your specific program with Mentor Collective to engagement. And all of these outcomes are impacted by increasing ongoing participant engagement beyond the recruitment phase. The outcomes that you may have as goals for your program are in that bottom light blue box, right at the bottom. So sense of belonging, academic self-efficacy, academic help-seeking behavior, or career decision, self-efficacy. In our upcoming Q&A section with Casey from UW-Madison, you'll hear how UW-Madison increased participant engagement in their mentorship program, leading to a more successful sense of belonging and academic self-efficacy outcome for their participants. I'd also like to direct your attention, before we get started with that Q&A, on the screen to those two middle blocks. So firstly, supporting target populations at critical times in their higher education experience can include, for example, setting goals, resource sharing, uncovering insights through assessment data, or flagging individual participants who might need extra support. Secondly, preparing well-trained, informed, and supported participants to achieve a successful mentorship experience can include those same features, or for example, maybe even messaging that highlights campus mentorship events, or our mentor training, which we'll talk a little bit about at the end of today's webinar. Using those resources for mentors and mentees, as well as those engagement metrics available to you on your partner dashboard, support achievement of that bottom block, right? So the outcome that you're looking to achieve with your program. And collaborating with your Mentor Collective representative or your program success manager, just like Javi, to discuss how using MC resources in tandem with the resources at your specific school is the best way to drive engagement for your mentorship program. Javi and Casey are such a great example of this kind of collaboration, and we'll hear from them in just one sec. All right, before I throw it to them, I am interested in all of you and all of our friends from across the country who are attending today. So what are you doing today that positively impacts participant engagement? You can type your answer just right in the Zoom chat, and I'll read out a couple of them. Anything from discussion guides, messaging, nudging, on-campus events. I'm seeing focus groups with students and alumni, mentioning this program to anyone we speak to. That's wonderful. From Udell, an autumn picnic for mentors and mentees. That sounds lovely. I would love to come to that. The push notifications. Yeah, a lot of social activities. And I think that's so important to drive sense of belonging, especially creating a safe space. Yeah, this is wonderful. A paint event. That's interesting. I like that. Yeah, so building off of some of these ideas, we will dive into the Q&A portion now with Javi and Casey to hear how they used some creative engagement practices on their campus at UW-Madison. So Javi and Casey, I will throw it your way.
Thank you, Jen. So glad to be here. Thanks everyone for attending. I'm Javi. I'm a program success manager for almost 2 years, and I've been working with Casey and her team for almost 2 years now as well. And if I've learned something in these 2 years that I've been a program success manager, is that we're in a very unique position. Thankfully, we support multiple institutions and programs, and we get to learn what are some things that are working, what are some of the things that are being tried, because at the end of the day, students are an elusive species, right? And what worked 1 year didn't work the next one. So student engagement can be tough. And the good news is that you're not alone in this challenge. And since we are facilitating multiple peer mentorship relationships, thanks to the Mentor Collective programs, we really believe in the intentionality behind delivering a peer learning experience. And out of all the partners that I work with, I would highlight a lot. But I think there's one that I'm really glad that was able to take part today. That was Casey from UW-Madison. In the time that we've worked together, she and her team have been very dedicated, intentional, data-driven, and it always surprises me that they are relentless in trying out new things. And thankfully this year, these efforts are paying off. We're seeing an increase in engagement, the number of pairs that have been reporting conversations, logging flags. And I would really love to encourage you to take this time to think about your programs, to get inspired and to learn from directly from Casey's experiences and to interact with each other. So I will try and ask some questions to Casey to facilitate all of this discussion. And here comes the first one. Casey, could you please introduce yourself, your program, what challenges have you faced, and what you feel is working to increase engagement?
Awesome. Thanks, Javi. Thank you all so much for joining today. I'm really excited to get to chat with you. So again, my name is Casey. I work at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, she, her pronouns. I work as the Assistant Director for Student Engagement. I work out of the Office of Student Financial Aid. I have a really awesome job. I think I have one of the best jobs on campus. Obviously, I'm pretty biased. I've been in the job for a while, but I have a really unique opportunity to work with financial aid. And then we also have success services in our office. And that's where our mentorship program lives. So within that, we have success coaching, we have basic needs support, and then our mentorship program. So our program, we started working with and partnering with Mentor Collective in the spring/summer of 2020, which is a pretty unique time in all of our lives. And so there was a lot going on in our community, in our world. And so we started off our program really strong. We had a lot of excitement. I'll tell you all about the details of our audience in just a second, but we started off actually with a smaller amount of matches because we didn't know what to anticipate. And we started to invite mentors and mentees and there was so much excitement because for our students in Madison, they didn't know what to expect of the fall of 2020 because we were all going to be remote. And so we ended up actually expanding our opportunity for matches, which was pretty cool. So we've been partners for quite a few years now, which is really amazing. So our focus for our program is with our highest needs students in terms of financial aid. So our mentees are incoming first year students. So we actually invite them to the program typically in the summer. And so before they even come to campus, they're admitted students, and we pair them with mentors that are third or fourth year students here on campus. Something that's super cool is that we've reached the point of partnering with Mentor Collective for so many years now, is that some of our mentees are now mentors because of how long we've been able to have this program. One of the things that we've also evolved over time is that we started off solely volunteer mentors, and we've kind of moved into a new model where we have paid and volunteer mentors. And so our paid mentors, typically there's a lot of similar kind of expectations, but one of the biggest ones for our paid mentors is they have more mentees, so between 5 to 10 mentees, and our volunteer mentors are like 1 to 4 mentees. So that's kind of a bit about our population of who we invite to the program. It's one of the things that's also unique too about our campus is, I think 2 years ago-ish, this is the second cohort. We also expanded to also have a program within our admissions with our admissions team. So we our admissions folks invite folks that have been admitted to the institution but haven't decided to come to UW-Madison, and so they're able to kind of be partnered with a mentor. And then if they choose to come here, then we also invite them to be a part of our first year program. So they'll continue that mentorship as they come here to campus, which is really cool. So we love that. Our challenges, every year is different. Our students change, our years change. We've also had a very unique few years in terms of remote campus, hybrid campus. You know, like our students have gone through a lot. We've all gone through a lot. And so our challenges have really ebbed and flowed. I think what I have learned the most in the past few years related to the mentorship program is that you never know what you're going to get. And I think we have to continue to adapt to be able to understand what do our mentors and what do our mentees need. We've had years where we can't get enough mentors. As Javi knows, we have had years where we've offered to pay mentors and they're like, nah, no thanks, I'm good. Like, I don't want it. And we've also had years where we just don't have students that want to be mentees. They aren't looking for that experience. And so our challenge is, how do we adapt? How do we figure out what do we do to increase that engagement? What do we do to meet the needs of our students of the year? Because it is no one size fits all. And so we have to kind of constantly be thinking on our feet and listening to our students to figure out, like, how do we offer that opportunity in a way that makes sense to them?
Thank you, Casey, for sharing that. I feel like in all of these, ups and downs for years, and especially these last 4 years have been long years, you've been quite proficient at identifying which data supports the learning that you need in order to evolve your model from one year to the other. And as you've said, also like these 4 years brought a unique set of challenges. So I wanted to ask you next, what keeps you going? What is something that you were excited about that could potentially increase engagement at UW-Madison?
Yeah, I love this question, Javi. I think what constantly continues our team to move forward, because I surely don't facilitate this program on my own. There's a lot of folks. We have 2 success coaches. I have a colleague that I work very closely with to facilitate this program. And what continues to excite me and excite us is that opportunity to have a positive impact and to increase that sense of belonging, that ability to help our students find success. So, we live under this umbrella in the Office of Student Financial Aid of Success Services, and our mission and our goal and what drives us is to help students find success. And we know that looks differently for everybody. And so that is part of our adaptability. That's part of our flow is to kind of figure out like what do students need in the moment. And that is that driver of what do we do right now? How do we, that is exciting to figure out how do we drive that passion for our students? How do we help them find success? I think one of the things too that is particularly exciting is that over the years, I have really learned the value of both parties in this. I think when we first started, I was all about the mentees. I was like, yes, it's their first year. They're coming into UW-Madison. How do we make this their home? How do we build that sense of belonging? And I didn't think much about the mentors. I'm like, they're great. They're third and fourth year students. What do they need from me? I've learned so much that it is about that excitement for the program is really about both of them. And so this year, I think very much to our conversation today, our investment, our time, our energy, our thinking about the mentors has really shifted our program. We spent much more time talking to our mentors, much more time engaging with them, talking and listening to those voices. And that is exciting because we're creating ways and we're creating valuable experiences for our mentees because they're learning about our campus, they're learning about the secret spaces, they're learning about like the hidden curriculum that exists here at UW-Madison. They're building partnerships with them, with the mentors, and we're ensuring that this is a valuable experience for our mentors. They're maybe getting paid if they want that experience. That might be something that is essential for them. And they're also having really cool experiences with other students. They're learning how to be a mentor, and they're walking away, they're moving away from this experience with something hopefully just as valuable as our mentees. And that to me is super exciting. That's just way more exciting than I think over the past few years I've really ever put much time and energy into.
Thank you for sharing that, Casey. I think across the portfolio of programs that I work with, I see this realization like of the importance of both mentees and mentors coming in when you've worked with some programs under your belt. So I'm glad that you mentioned that, and I really believe that mentorship could be a great addition in the resume of a mentor, and I believe that very much like that hidden curriculum at Madison that they need to unveil, they would find that in their professional life. So I think investing in their experience is investing also in their professional future. So thank you again, like for sharing that. Let me dive a little bit deeper on what is going on with the mentorship program this year. And as we mentioned earlier today, the engagement is performing really well this year. What impacts have you noticed of this increase in engagement? Have you seen any positive shifts related to sense of belonging for participants that are actively participating in the program?
Yeah, so I think what's different about this year, more than some of the other years, and again, there's a lot of ebb and flow from year to year. I think one of the things that I've noticed significantly, even in this short amount of time, is that we know more. We know what's happening. We're hearing from our mentors and our mentees. They're responding to our questions. We're seeing more flags coming in. We're seeing more conversations logged, and we're able to respond to those. In previous years, not all the years, but in some of the years, like it's just kind of silent. And so that to me, and in many of our conversations, Javi, like the engagement just isn't as strong, or at least we're not hearing about it. And so what's different this year is that we know things are happening. And so there's a positive kind of shift again in that investment with our mentors as we're seeing the benefits of having the conversation to say, hi, when you submit this flag and you give us some really valuable information that allows us to do something with it, to follow up. When our mentors are more engaged, our mentees are more engaged. When our mentees are more engaged, our mentors are more engaged. So there really is like this true partnership that is taking place, and this wonderful positive shift that kind of happens as a result. One of the things that is, I hesitate to like go into the deep desk because again, we're really early into the year, is I do see some of the shifts in the data, right? Last year, seeing the sense of belonging and the self-efficacy numbers in the dashboard was really cool. And that was new to us to be able to kind of see that data as it was happening. There are shifts, there are positive shifts that are happening in the dashboard for us this year. It's new, it's early. So I'm still waiting for things to transpire. So it's hard to like put a whole bunch of stock into that. So we'll continue to kind of monitor that. What I do think is so interesting, and I will definitely be keeping my eye on it this year, is that our mentor numbers are very different. So our sense of belonging for mentors from last year to this year is much higher than where we ended the year last year. So seeing where we ended last year of that score to where we are now in the very beginning of the year is so fascinating. And again, I think speaks to how we've shifted kind of our approach much more intentionally this year in parallel to kind of the paid versus the volunteer kind of model that we've set up a little bit differently than we have last year.
Thank you for sharing that. It's probably a self-reinforcing circle, right? Like if students are more engaged, they keep reporting more, and then they have a positive overall positive experience later. But allow me to dig even a bit deeper. And you've just mentioned that maybe it's a bit too soon for intervention, so early. But let's try and walk that talk, right? How are you turning this data into action? What are some resources that either through Mentor Collective or specific to your campus you have used or you're planning to use for students that you may identify they are experiencing a low sense of belonging?
Yeah, this is something knowing that we have access to this information and knowing that we have access to it earlier, I'm really excited to be able to engage our mentees very differently, or our mentors if that comes up. So one of the things with our team is that, and I imagine many of us here today understand, is that every student is different. Everybody's needs are very different. And so what is amazing about the dashboard and being able to see kind of the results of each student is that we can talk and engage and be really intentional with each student based on what we're seeing. And having those strengthened relationships with our mentors this year also amplify that ability to be able to engage intentionally and support, in this case, like our mentee to the best of our abilities. So we have folks that are success coaches, they're graduate students, they meet with students one-on-one, and so they're really our kind of opportunity to ensure that we're getting students engaged in the best way possible. So we have lots of opportunity to either follow up directly with a mentee, follow up directly with a mentor. And so our kind of thought process behind seeing this information is to really do our best to engage with the student the best way possible. And so for us, it's starting with a mentor, because the mentor has that relationship. And so starting with them to say, hi, you have this relationship with a mentee. Let's talk about ways that we can help support your mentee. And then also engaging with a mentee. So that might be campus referrals. That might be just, our campus is so large, there's so many opportunities that might be like, oh, are you interested in getting a job? Are you wanting to get involved? Are you this? Are you that? Are you, I think there's so many different ways, and knowing that everybody is different, it's about having that conversation to say, what is going to help you and how do we support you? How do we listen to you and give you what you might need in the moment? I think there is also an acknowledgement that it might not be us, right? You might not want to have that conversation with us. You might also still be developing that relationship with that mentor, and it might not be them. And so how do we just share resources with you to ensure that you're going to get to what you need, walk you where you need to go, whatever that might be, to kind of acknowledge that we don't have to have all the answers, that every student is going to kind of engage in a different way. And we're okay with that, just making sure that they know that we're here when they're ready. And that we want them to find that home here at UW-Madison, whatever, if that's a student organization, if that's just a group of friends, if that's where they live. I think there's plenty of opportunities. It's just kind of how do we get them connected to that thing? And knowing the data is like step one in the process, right? Like having an opportunity to acknowledge like, oh, you're feeling this way. Okay. I think the other thing too, that again, we're trying to figure out the best way to do this is normalizing that. I think like when you're coming to a campus, you're coming to this huge, massive place, like feeling like you belong takes a little bit of time because you can surely feel like you're just a number on a really large campus. And so part of our approach is also like, how do we create a community? How do we get you connected? How do we ensure that you also know that there might be other folks that are feeling the same way? And that's okay. And so how do we like get you to that next step? How do we open the doors so that when you're ready, you can come in and we can talk about ways for you to feel connected?
I loved how you phrased it. I feel that all the folks in the room would agree that mentorship is a driver to foster community. And on the other, I just wanted to highlight how you framed that data allows you to deliver a very personal experience at a large scale. What a beautiful challenge to have. And I think if it wasn't for data, we wouldn't be able to do it. And at the same time, we do have a lot of data, right? So let me use this as a segue into my last question. Are you ready for one more?
Yeah, ready.
An increasing amount of data is accessible in your dashboard. You may have seen it, right, in these 4 years that you've been working with Mentor Collective. So what are your personal favorites? And allow me to expand a bit on that, right? Not only that feature, but also how you're leveraging the collaboration with your Mentor Collective representative to make the most out of these features.
Yeah. There are a lot of things in the dashboard that I love. There's a lot of things also in the dashboard that are like new that I can't wait to use better. So I'm really excited, and this is one of the things that and Javi, you know this, that like as things continue to develop, I'm like, oh, I can't wait to be able to help build our community knowing some of this information that we didn't know before. So I think one of the things that our program has been able to utilize since day one is flags. And so that ability for a mentor to share what's happening in their relationship, that they think that a mentee could benefit from XYZ, that is their way to kind of communicate with us in it's a moment in time, right? I think my mentee could use some help with financial aid. I think my mentee could use help with academics. And knowing that allows us to do that follow-up work. So we can say, okay, great, thank you so much. Let's figure out where do we go. And sometimes for us, that's sending information to the mentee. Sometimes that's sending information to the mentor. Again, with our evolution of the paid mentor model and having that stronger connection with mentors, those things are evolving for us over time too about how we follow up. But flags are definitely number one. And they have been, and I'm sure they always will continue to be to some degree, just because like they've been part of me since the very beginning. But that has been one thing. The thing that will hopefully continue to build on is seeing the flags over time and seeing do we see a certain type of flag at a certain type of year or certain time of year that we can be a little bit more intentional about sharing. So again, with kind of that normalizing piece of kind of understanding, I think a lot of our students come in with imposter syndrome about being a student here on campus. I think a lot of them think that they should live up to this, like, I'm an amazing student, I should come in and get straight A's. And so, like if we're seeing lots of academic flags around the third week of class or whenever it might be, how do we share with our broader community some tools and resources? How do we share, like, you might be feeling like you're struggling right now, and kind of sharing with a broader idea. So I think that's also a way that flags can be really helpful from like a bigger picture. One of the things that we've also used a lot of this year is like nudges and communication. in partnership with Mentor Collective. We've noticed that it's not always easy for our students to see the program Mentor Collective and UW-Madison together. And so we're trying to strategize better this year about how we see the program as one. And so being able to share communications has been really helpful so that it seems well, it is one, but like our students know it as one program, and that when we have communications kind of back and forth, they know us as one happy family, that we're all together in community, and Mentor Collective and UW-Madison are in partnership. And so those communication nudges, whether it for an event or a survey or whatever it might be, those are really great. That's a great opportunity. The pieces that I cannot wait to use more of are those assessment pieces. So being able to lean in more to the sense of belonging data, lean in more to the self-efficacy, and being able to, we've started those follow-up pieces, but again, like have that intentional reach out, have that intentional data to be able to connect with our students, to be able to support them, to know. And, I always think about like when I fill out a survey and I'm like, does that go anywhere? Do people do anything with that? And I want our students to know that if they're sharing these feelings with us, that it's not just going out into, out into the ether, right? Like it's coming into a place that we care about them and we want them to know that they're supported. We might not have a miracle answer for them, but like they can come and we can problem solve together. And so that's where like, if we're going to take the data, let's do something with it and let's help them. And so that's like our future of like our next steps of like, how do we do that with intentionality, with care, with ensuring that our students know that this is part of kind of their built-in programming now.
Wonderful. I've really seen it, how intentional you've been with understanding the data that is collected and how you're always trying to be proactive at your communications rather than reactive. So I really feel that all the learnings that you have gathered with Flags, you will be able also to pour into the recent assessments data that I remind you all is available now. We used to be gatekeepers for it. We used to share that in the program reviews. Right now, I feel like the value of that data is right there at your fingertips and you can act on that. So I think we are all learning together how to best use it. Casey, can't thank you enough. I think you've been wonderful in highlighting the resources and features of the partner dashboard that you've been using the most for the past years. I wanted also now to turn it back to my colleague, Jen, who will give you further insight into not only how the partner dashboard works, but also how the mentor and mentee experience is. That will also help you all to design and implement some interventions to drive student engagement. Thank you again, Casey. Back to you,
Thanks,
Jen.
Javi.
Thank you both. Casey and Javi, I think there's some questions for you in the chat as well. So I'll move forward and I'll leave that for you. What a wonderful insight into what went on at your campus, Casey, at UW-Madison. And I'm excited now to share with all of you some ways to use Mentor Collective's resources in tandem with your own campus or institution resources to drive engagement in your specific programs. All right, so first we'd like to shift into sharing specifically the mentor experience resources that are available for your mentor participants. And there was a great question in the chat about engaging mentees as mentors later. And I think this is one of the ways that you can do that, is really advertising on your campus or within your program the benefits for mentors. Similarly, Casey had talked about this, really thinking through a different point of view for your program. It's not just about the mentees, it's very much also about the mentors and the experience that they can have. And keeping your mentors engaged is just as critical, if not more so than the mentees, because those mentors being engaged drives engagement with their mentees, right? So the first point of engagement with program participants is during the recruitment process. And we won't be chatting specifically about recruitment today. We won't have time for that, but we will share some tips and tricks for boosting opt-ins in our follow-up messaging after this webinar. So when a mentor first signs up with their program, they'll see this mentorship checklist that you see on my screen on the left here, with a variety of onboarding items that are designed to set mentors up for success and really drive engagement throughout the program's duration. So for example, you'll see the resources on the right-hand side of that checklist, that onboarding checklist. Those are guides meant to support mentors in breaking the ice and encouraging authentic conversations with their mentee. Right. So on the right-hand side, I want to speak to training, which is another resource for mentors specifically. So after mentors complete their matching survey, they take a required mentor training before they can be matched. And this training prepares mentors with knowledge such as basic communication skills, how to re-engage mentees they haven't heard from in a while, and how to take advantage of all of the features that we offer to maximize their mentorship experience. This course is an on-demand training that mentors can take anytime, anywhere on their phones or their computers, whatever device they prefer. It provides basic training on how to use our features, but also tips for engagement. We know that not all mentors come to a mentorship knowing how to, for example, introduce themselves properly or ask open-ended questions, or how to have a conversation with someone about something, that might be difficult for them. This training ensures that mentors really feel comfortable driving conversations with their mentees, know how to set boundaries for a structured mentoring relationship, what's comfortable for them, what's not, how to communicate that, and how to feel prepared to engage in supporting their mentees' needs. And one way I think this can be used really creatively to drive engagement, apart from the beginning of the mentorship, is by driving the mentor back to this training at any point in the duration of their program. They can do that simply by heading back to their participant dashboard. If you're finding that mentors specifically in your program are struggling with any topic that's covered in the training, whether it's how to use our features, you're noticing, Casey had talked to the importance of flags. Maybe you're not noticing a lot of flags. Maybe mentors need a reminder on how to use flags. You can always take advantage of our messaging or our nudging systems to encourage mentors to go back to this training, or you can point them to specific sections in the training that you think might be helpful in tackling whatever challenge you're facing. I think that's a great example also of how you can collaborate with your MC representative to think through some novel ways to boost engagement at various points throughout the program's duration, not just at the beginning of that program. You can see on the onboarding checklist, you also have the opportunity to add an optional DE&I Foundations course, which I'd like to highlight to this group. It's the first of its kind on the market, and it teaches participants how to apply a DE&I mindset to mentorship. So how to think through inclusiveness and diversity in communicating with their mentee. Lastly, another feature designed to really drive engagement and create structure in the mentorship throughout the program's duration would be our extensive library of discussion guides. We have over 45 guides that cover all kinds of topics that might come up in a mentorship, and they're meant to support the mentor and the mentee together in navigating that conversation. So the guides are all created with the intention also to drive the mentee back to your institution provided resources. So there might be language in there driving students back to the tutoring center, for example, or the wellness center on your campus. The guides have all been created by curriculum designers, educators, and leaders in DE&I, and they're truly excellent resources in your program. And you can work with your MC representative to also create custom guides that are specific to the unique needs of your program. So again, in the interest of time, we'll send some follow-up messaging after this webinar to show you some more information on what's included in those guides and what you can do in using those guides throughout your program's duration. All right, for mentees, we're going to jump here quickly. You'll see a similar onboarding checklist for mentees, but this covers tasks specific to the onboarding of mentees, right? So mentees see an optional course that's just for them. It's designed to support their participation in the mentorship. And the course includes videos from other mentees talking about best practices that they learned and that they exhibited throughout their mentorship that led to success, such as ways to communicate with their mentor. They also have access to that DE&I course, so allowing the mentor and the mentee to have the communication skills necessary to engage appropriately. And you can also point your mentee back to this course at any point in the duration of their program. I also want you to take a peek at that box highlighted in red on the image on the left, the section for goals. This is a newer feature that we offer, and it's really one of my favorites in driving engagement. It just holds so much power in creating an impactful mentoring relationship and driving program outcomes. So the mentor feels supported in bringing targeted resources to the mentorship, and the mentee feels supported in achieving what they set out to do by signing up for the mentorship. And all of those resources, again, drive participants back to the institution, ensuring folks further engage with the resources that you've set up at your school to support the needs. So for example, how this might work in practice, a mentee maybe has a goal of learning how to better balance schoolwork with other things on their plate. So the mentor sees this, they see the goal pop up on their own dashboard. They're directed to the guides from our library of discussion guides on resources specific to that topic, or any custom guides that maybe you've added that are specific to that. And then they engage in a series of structured conversations that they log about that goal with the mentee. The guides also recommend that the mentee visit some institution-specific resources on your campus, such as maybe the Academic Services Center, the Wellness Center, the Tutoring Center. And then again, all parties involved in this feel empowered and supported and engaged, and then they feel successful, which really drives that program's outcome to be achievable. All right, very last feature here I'd like to cover before we wrap up. So the ability to capture insights, Casey had talked about this as well, and it's so important, right? The ability to capture and also use this to drive maybe nuances in your program that can drive engagement. And a great example of how you could use this is maybe if you are having a chat with your MC representative and you noticed on your partner dashboard that some of your conversation numbers might be low. So you collaborate with maybe Javi or whoever you're working with, your MC rep, to better support mentors in driving additional conversations. Maybe around the same time, you also notice a drop in flags or an increase in flags, maybe popping up on a similar topic. Maybe academic struggles is popping up. You know that, given your program, it's almost midterms on your campus, and you connect with your MC rep that maybe students are struggling with balancing academics with their other commitments, and that's leading to decreased engagement and even lower sense of belonging. So together, the two of you take advantage of our messaging and nudging tools to encourage mentors to check out maybe the discussion guides that support that very need. Guides such as, how to manage schoolwork and stress, how to stay balanced, how to navigate school services. You could send out a micro survey encouraging participants to check out those resources. And then you also notice that students from the program are coming to your tutoring center, which is where the guide is directing them to go for extra help. So all of these resources kind of work in a marriage to help you develop support for the mentor and the mentee. Everyone feels supported. Again, they feel successful in achieving their goals, and the program ultimately sees an increase in the outcome that they were hoping to achieve. All right, we are going to wrap up here with this last bit here. We've come to our last slide. We raced through all of these wonderful resources. We have some wonderful follow-up messaging for all of you. We'll include this deck, and we'll also include some articles that talk further about some of the resources that we touched on briefly, as well as some of the things that Casey and Javi had discussed. I'd love to hear from all of you before we say goodbye. So what resource are you most excited about using to drive engagement in your program? If you want to drop that answer in the chat, I'd love to hear it. I also want to just shout out, I see some questions in the chat We probably won't have time to get to answer all of them individually in the chat, but we do have the chat saved, and I'll follow up with all of you personally over email. Mentee goals. Yeah, Javi, I absolutely agree. That's really my favorite resource right now. I think it's awesome, and it's something that keeps showing up throughout the program's entirety. Anything else before we wrap up? Any other resources people are feeling really jazzed about, they're excited to try out, or they want more info on? Alrighty. Well, I hope all of you have a fantastic Halloween. I hope you get lots of trick-or-treaters if you do that. And I am just so thankful for all of you to for attending and for learning with me and Javi, Casey, and Mackenzie today. We are excited to send you some follow-up messaging, so be on the lookout for that, and have a great fall. Thank you.